There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, you will be entered into the World Martial Arts Tournament. Hi guys, this is the next part of What If Itachi Uchiha Was Reincarnated in the World of Fairy Tail. I hope you enjoy. Heat. An intense blazing heat filled the house of Uchiha. All windows were wide open along with the entrance door. Due to the intense heat, Uchiha had removed her cloak, and stood in a white blouse with a black skirt. Lucy was in her Aquarius star dress form, using the water ability she gained from this form in an attempt to cool down the heating body of an unconscious Natsu. The air was burning hot, and sweat poured from both Uchiha and Lucy. And steam rose from the near-instant vaporized water hitting Natsu's body. Natsu, what happened to you? Lucy only recalled Natsu emitting such a level of heat once, when Igneel showed himself during the war against Tartaros. Happy wouldn't say anything other than Zirf was too strong for Natsu to handle, and that Natsu got beaten badly. Lucy could tell there was more to the story Happy wasn't sharing. But she wasn't about to interrogate the already frightened Happy, who was weeping in a corner. Muttering apologies to the unconscious Natsu for being too weak to help. We really could use Gray right about now, Lucy panted. The heat was getting to her. She had tried everything, but Natsu's body heat was still sky high. Looking down on the unconscious dragon slayer, Lucy's mind drifted down memory lane. To her first meeting with Natsu, him bringing her to Fairy Tail, various adventures they went on. All the times Natsu would stand against a strong or an even stronger opponent, and still come out on top. Natsu always seemed strong in Lucy's eyes. But now, he was laying here, beaten and helpless. Natsu, hang in there. Lucy gentle removed some of Natsu's bangs from his eyes, getting a good look at his face. Natsu was panting, sweating, his chest heaving up and down from all his heavy breathing. Uchiha looked around for any sort of medicine that could lower Natsu's fever. But she found that several of her equipment had begun to melt in the face of Natsu's heat. At this rate, she couldn't examine him, and they might end up losing Natsu in the process. Damn it. Uchiha cursed and tossed a pot of burnt medical herbs crashing into the wall. What is plaguing you, child? Uchiha tried to wrap her head around Natsu's condition. The only thing she knew for sure, it was related to his Fire Dragon Slayer powers somehow. Meanwhile, in Natsu's mindscape, the confused Dragon Slayer ran around in an empty black void, unsure of how he got here, or what happened with Zirf. Natsu began wondering if Zirf had trapped him in the Book of END by now. Natsu drifted around aimlessly, his eyes devoid of purpose. What was he? Human? Demon? Dragon? What will he do now? Should he just give up and die? Yes, perhaps that would be for the best. He was END, a monster. A monster that could kill and harm his precious friends. You look lost, Natsu, a familiar voice called out to him. Natsu weakly looked up to its source. The scenery around him changing, into some fiery volcanic wasteland. And before him, the form of his foster father, Igneel. Igneel. Natsu's voice sounded broken, weak. Am I dead, or dreaming? Igneel didn't answer, and merely looked upon the pitiful state Natsu was in. The large dragon sighed, and stood on his 4 feet. You tell me, what do you think? I'm not sure I even care anymore. Natsu answered. His spirit was broken, he felt he had no right to live. Pathetic. Where is the fire in your belly? Igneel roared at him, sounding like a scolding parent. Igneel's booming voice didn't even seem to wake Natsu up, he stood there in silence looking depressed. What? You lose one battle, and you will mope for the rest of your life. I raised you better than that. Did you? Natsu asked, looking up at Igneel. Did you? Or did Zirf? I don't even remember, or was it someone else? Igneel's eyes narrowed upon the pitiful state of his adoptive son. Simply shaking his head, Zirf had broken Natsu's spirit completely. Natsu, answer me this. Where do you think we are right now? Natsu took a quick look around at the fiery wasteland. My guess would be hell. Natsu replied weakly, and thus, Igneel flicked him upside the head. Arg. Natsu rubbed his sore head in pain. Idiot. Look closer. Igneel instructed. Natsu took a second look around, this time focusing on his environment more. To which he found the scenery quickly changing to that spot in the woods where he used to live with Igneel. Huh. Looking around, Natsu saw a childlike version of himself running up to another Igneel, showing off a fire dragon roar. To which Igneel snorted at the young child's attempt at a roar and told him to keep practicing. Still not figured it out. We're in your head, son. The scenery changed again, to a nearly starved young Natsu wandering into Magnolia, shortly after Igneel went missing. Looking like he was nearly going to pass out from hunger. The young Natsu fell, and laid on the ground for a bit. Adults walked by, not taking notice to him, not bothering with a street kid. But then, a kind hand stretched out to him. Makarov Dreyar offered his hand and aid to the young Natsu, giving him food and shelter at the Fairy Tale Guildhall. Here he met all sorts of new people: Itachi, Gray, Urza, Kana. And later, Mira Jane, Lizana and Elfman. All your memories, all the answers you seek, are here. Natsu looked in awe. It made sense now, well, at least a little. Natsu looked to the Igneel before him, a sad realization hitting him. You're not real, are you? Hey, you tell me. Igneel leaned in closer, and nudged his snout into Natsu's back, telling him to go in that direction. I cannot tell you the answer, you must find it yourself. Only then, will you be able to wake up. Natsu looked at the direction Igneel pointed him towards, seeing a dark empty void. What's in there? Natsu felt chills running down his spine from just looking into the darkness. Memories that have long since been forgotten. And the answer you seek. Igneel's voice faded away, and thus Natsu looked behind him, seeing the massive dragon was gone. He may have been a figment of Natsu's imagination, but it was nice to talk to Igneel. Even though it was short. Natsu gathered his courage, clasping his hands to his cheeks, ready to brace himself for whatever horrifying memories may await him in the void. Back on the battlefield, in the southern Isles of Ishgar, Urza along with Mistogen, War World Itachi, and her Edelus counterpart Nightwalker, had led the forces of Ishgar, and the backup forces from Edelus to push back the Alvarez Imperial Navy. Although, disturbing news quickly reached them, and Urza was visibly distraught from hearing them through Warren's telepathy. What? Oni-san vanished from the battlefield. Urza's scream caused Warren to flinch on the other end. We don't know quite what happened, but judging by the fact I'm still here means he is alive at least. Itachi's crow clone he had left behind at the guild hall spoke up as Warren was visibly frightened. We are about to contact Jalal, seeing as he was with my original at his last known location. Urza, however, then heard some form of rumbling on the other end, followed by what sounded like a thunderclap, and an explosion, followed in the end by static. Warren, what happened? Urza frantically tried to reach their HQ through their comm channel. The entire network was down, which means something happened to Warren. Or worse, maybe the entire HQ was destroyed. What's wrong? Urza's Edelus counterpart asked. As they were not yet linked up with Warren's telepathy, they had no idea what was going on. Something's happened. Oni-san is missing, and something just hit our HQ. Urza was visibly sweating. She felt nearly tempted to have Mess teleport her to the HQ to find out what was going on. Although she was needed here, as Jalal left her in charge of the squad. I noticed a strong chakra signature appearing in that direction. War World Itachi pointed in the direction Itachi and Jalal had gone with Happy to help Natsu in his battle against Zirf. Although it, and my counterparts both quickly vanished. Any idea what could be the cause of it? Urza asked, hoping the former Edelus commander with his knowledge of the shinobi world would have a clue. My guess it was some sort of teleportation ninjutsu. Although, to make him travel such great lengths, beyond our sensors as just, I can only think of the flying Raijin. But that would require the user to have planted a tag somewhere beforehand. Wait, no, it couldn't be. Something then seemed to click inside War World Itachi's head. What? Urza desperately wanted answers. She even grabbed onto War World Itachi's coat like if she was demanding it. Those guys we fought earlier, they were enemies you had killed in the past, right? War World Itachi referred to the reanimated Tartaros members. Yes, that is correct. Urza nodded in confirmation. That means someone on the enemy side has the ability to revive the dead, almost like he was an Edo Tensei caster, but if it was the Edo Tensei they wouldn't have been beaten so easily. Not to mention the caster would have required a sample of DNA with a sufficient amount of chakra to revive a dead person. Are you sure you have confirmed all of those from the shinobi world this Zirf has revived? Yes, we are certain. There is Oni-san, Kisame, Sasori, Kakuzu and Madara. Urza confirmed, and War World Itachi thought back on the versions of those Urza mentioned from his world. If I recall, neither of them knew the Edo Tensei jutsu in my world. The only one I can suspect that is behind this is Madara, but then again, this is different from the Edo Tensei, but still similar in so many ways. It can't be a coincidence. pondering on his thoughts, and gathering the puzzle pieces he had in order to try and solve this mystery. Alright, I think I know what happened to my counterpart, and I think I know who took him. War World. Itachi looked over to Mistogen, staring intently at the Sharingan in the Daedalus King's right eye. Meanwhile, in a different dimension, a shockwave rang, and vibrated through the entire space, as Itachi and Obito clashed their arms against each other, competing in a battle of taijutsu. Obito turned out to be quite the challenging opponent in that field for Itachi, countering all of Itachi's attacks, and even overpowering some of his blows. Itachi was on the retreat, jumping back to avoid a series of kicks from Obito. A mere kick from Obito cracked the stone pillar they were on, causing it to collapse, to which they jumped to the next one. Itachi did notice he was faster than Obito, although Obito's reanimated body had given him endless stamina and an increased level of strength. Are you meant to kill me? Or keep me trapped? Itachi swung his arm aiming for Obito's head, yet the older Uchiha avoided the blow by ducking under it, thrusting his right palm forward aiming for Itachi's chest. Can't say. The caster hasn't given any info yet, although I don't doubt my goal is to kill you. Obito's palm thrust was avoided, as Itachi countered by slamming his palm into Obito's arm, pushing it away to the side. Do you know anything regarding the caster of this Edo Tensei-like technique? Itachi tried to get as much info as possible from Obito, as it could be the key to figure out a counter strategy. No, only that he or she compels me to fight you. Obito then suddenly took a giant leap backwards, and whilst midair formed a series set of hand seals. Fire style. Blast wave wild dance. Spraying out from his mouth, Obito unleashed a dancing wave of circling fire towards Itachi. Itachi responded with a quick flash of his own hand seals, and merely out of the very lack of moisture in the air, created a massive water serpent dragon, that clashed with the spiraling fire. The two attacks detonated into a massive cloud of steam, negating each other. Yet despite this thick steam, the two Uchiha warriors clashed, as the sound of metal clashing with each other came from within the steam cloud. For these two Uchihas with the Sharingan, they had no problem detecting each other. Within the steam cloud, Itachi clashed with dual-wield kunai knives against a black chakra rod emitting from Obito's palm. Itachi remained on the defensive, due to the chakra rod being way denser and stronger than a kunai. Itachi mostly parried each blow from Obito. You haven't tried any genjutsu yet, Obito pointed out as they went into a lock, with Obito pushing the chakra rod down onto Itachi, who held the kunai knives in an X formation to block. You are essentially a reanimated shinobi. Genjutsu wouldn't work on you unless it was the Koto Amatsukami. Besides, with your Mangekyo Sharingan you could negate any genjutsu I cast on you. Itachi's aura flashed in a speck of darkness, as he entered stage 1 of his demon form, effectively giving him a massive strength boost. Itachi successfully pushed Obito back, and launched him back several feet with a kick to his chest. Obito was launched straight into one of the stone-like pillars. Itachi's kick carried such power Obito flew straight through the pillar like a bullet. And thus, the pillar broke in half, with the top half falling into the endless abyss below. Obito rolled onto another pillar platform, his chest having caved in from that kick alone. If Obito wasn't reanimated he would have suffered a massive fatal blow. Since he didn't feel pain, Obito just casually stroked his hand over his caved-in chest as it was recovering. However, Itachi had no interest in ending his assault, and moving faster than Obito could register, Itachi appeared behind Obito, and it took a few seconds before Obito even heard what sounded like a bullet being fired, which was supposed to be the sound of Itachi making the jump. Itachi was faster than the speed of sound. Obito turned around, and Itachi sliced him in half by the waist using a lightning blade. Whilst this happened, the pillar Itachi was on earlier had shattered from the force of his leap. What was that? Obito asked casually, quickly using Kamui to teleport his upper body away before Itachi destroyed him. Itachi clicked his tongue in frustration, having missed his ride out of this dimension. Although his attention was quickly diverted to the lower half Obito left behind, it was standing on its own, and charged at him, delivering jump and spin kicks. Itachi caught onto the foot of Obito's lower body, and smacked it into the ground like a ragdoll. Itachi's senses peaked, as a sensation of danger loomed over him. Acting quickly, Itachi turned around and threw Obito's lower body at a now fully recovered Obito. What appeared as pieces of paper fell off from the lower half of Obito Itachi threw, revealing the lower body of someone wearing Alvarez Imperial armor. Well, Obito asked as he charged with a dual blast of fireballs the size of the entire Fairy Tail Guildhall. Itachi casually slapped each giant blazing ball of fire aside like nothing while eyeing Obito. Both fireballs clashed in the background in a brilliant blazing inferno. Itachi kept a stern gaze at Obito as the crackling sound of fire burnt in the background. Well, what? Itachi threw a frisbee-sized shuriken made out of his darkness at Obito. The older Uchiha gracefully dodged by rotating his whole body, and jabbing a chakra rod into the center of the intense rotating shuriken. As he attempted to throw it back at Itachi, Itachi merely clenched his fist and the shuriken exploded like a bomb. Are you going to tell me what this new power is? And how you are even alive? Obito's arms had been blown clean off, yet he was regenerating himself. Long story, and I don't really feel like sharing any information regarding my powers. Itachi charged at Obito, who was now on the defensive, taking giant leaps away from Itachi. You don't trust me, do you? Obito asked. You used me, manipulated Sasuke by taking advantage of my death, started the fourth great ninja war. So no, I don't trust you. Itachi gave a straightforward answer, and Obito couldn't say he didn't deserve it. He had done horrible things, and hurt people close to Itachi. Naruto changed me, Obito revealed, yet Itachi didn't let up his assault and delivered a devastating punch to Obito that nearly tore off his torso. He and Sasuke worked together in the end, I gave my life to save them. Is that so? For some reason that doesn't surprise me. Doesn't change the fact I have to destroy you to win this war. And frankly, it doesn't change anything. And it shouldn't matter to you why I am alive. Just take that knowledge with you to the other world. Obito cracked a smile from Itachi's reaction. It was how Obito expected him to respond, cold and straight to the point. And of course, making it seem like he knew everything while he was at it. You know, you were the biggest pain in my ass for the longest time. Obito chuckled a little, earning a slight frown from Itachi. Judging by the fact you knew the truth about me, means you knew I was spying on the Akatsuki for the leaf from the start. In confirmation, Obito looked on with a saddened gaze. Yes, I was planning on using you, until you would die from your illness in your battle against Sasuke. Then tell Sasuke the truth, to turn him on the leaf and take your place in the Akatsuki. Obito admitted, shame filling his voice and facial expression as he seemed disgusted with himself. I cannot even begin to apologize. It doesn't matter, you are dead, and I'm not. Whatever apology you have, save it. I'm long since over it. Itachi dodged as Obito threw his Kamui launched massive kunai-shaped blades attached to some chains. Itachi's Mangekyu flared and his Susanoo sprang to life instantaneously. The four skeletal arms of the spectral warrior grabbing onto the chains of the blades. The Susanoo gained flesh and armor. I will end this quickly. Itachi had the Susanoo yank the chains, pulling Obito in. Obito, however, quickly vanished in the vortex of his Kamui, and quickly reappeared within Itachi's Susanoo, delivering a kick to Itachi's lower back in order to break his spine. Yet the kick seemed to have little effect. Itachi stood still, and Obito looked in shock as a speck of darkness had grown out from Itachi's lower back, grabbing onto Obito's foot. The older Uchiha attempted to yank himself out, although was met with a swift powerful backhand strike from Itachi that sent Obito flying. I have long since surpassed you. You would have had a better chance at fighting me on the outside instead of in this dimension. Obito's body then froze, as his eyes went white and a snarky smirk spread across his face. Oh, thanks for the tip. All these warriors from your world are so hard to figure out. A voice that wasn't Obito's talked back to Itachi. Hey, and the caster reveals himself at last. Itachi revealed a chakra rod he had taken from Obito earlier, and stabbed himself in his palm. His senses intensifying, as it was like he traveled back to the outside world, and across the sea to see Nineheart sitting on board his ship. Back in the Kamui dimension, Itachi smirked at Nineheart's slip off, as the Spriggan without a doubt felt Itachi's presence near him. Found you. What the hell just happened? Nineheart snarled through Obito's body. These rods are chakra receivers, Obito links his chakra through it. And by taking over his conciseness for a brief moment, they trace back to you too as well. Which means, you just revealed your own location. Itachi could feel the anger from Nineheart, he didn't have to see him. He could already imagine the furious look on his face as he grumbled over his own mistake. Here's a lesson, learn the secrets behind the abilities of those you reanimate, before using them. Well, joke's on you, because you are never getting out of here. Nineheart began cackling, as he realized without Obito's eye Itachi cannot escape this realm. I'm not too worried to be honest. Itachi however, remained calm. And Nineheart for the life of him couldn't figure out why. As Itachi in the back of his mind thought of Mistogen. Even though Itachi would like to get out of here as quickly as possible, he couldn't help but wonder how the rest managed without him. Well, it doesn't matter. We have won. You may destroy Obito, and somehow get out. But you will only return to see your friends, dead. Nineheart seemed to abandon Obito's body, as Obito's eyes returned to normal and his posture changed back to that of a seasoned shinobi warrior. To this Itachi furrowed his brows, his mind racing with images of his friends one by one getting slaughtered. And the menacing looming figure of Madara and Zerf over the mountain of corpses. And at the source of Nineheart's confidence, at the heart of Magnolia, the Fairy Tail Guildhall. The reunion of the founding members of the guild was taking place. Prect. Now Hades eyed the room that was the guild he once helped create. I must say I preferred the original design. But don't worry boy, I shall help you tear it down. Master Prect. Makarov's fists trembled with a mixture of rage and sorrow. Rage over being forced to fight his old mentor, and sorrow over being reminded how said mentor fell from grace. But most of all, he was angry over now being forced to fight his own father. A father he barely knew, but his father nonetheless. Don't tell me. Hades then looked to Warad, seeing the anger burning in the tree man's eyes. Warad, and I thought I hadn't aged well. Hades gave his old comrade a sarcastic snort. Warad, Yuri seeming to have gained consciousness, looked around in awe. Although the interior looked different, he somehow knew this was his guild hall. What's going on? Seems someone has revived us, Yuri, and set us up to fight them. Hades answered, nudging towards Makarov and Warad standing before them. What? And no, that is crazy. I won't. Yuri found himself unable to move, hearing the compelling voice of Nineheart whispering in his mind. You have no choice, my puppet. Nineheart's cackling laughter faded into the back of his mind. Damn it. Yuri got a good look at Hades, only first now recognizing the strict look in the old wizard's eyes. Prect. You were Prect right. Wow, you got old. Not my fault I didn't die young like you. Hades rolled his eyes at Yuri's comment. So, it's been like what? 80 years since I died. 92, it's been 92 years since you died, Yuri. Warad revealed. Oh, so that means it's been 8 years since I died. Hades stroked his beard looking with a slight hint of fascination. I must admit, I am baffled you are still alive. What, you will age like an actual tree now? Hades gave a light chuckle. If I am understood by the request of our summoner, we are to retrieve the Lumen Histoire. Or rather, Fairy Heart. To be honest, that is the one thing I do not wish for. Fairy Heart, Yuri questioned, obviously oblivious to its existence. But like Warad, he was also oblivious to what Fairy Heart actually was. The body of their dearest friend Mavis Vermilion. Good, because we won't let you take it. Master Prect, Makarov declared, to which Yuri cast him a curious look. Hey, who's the midget-sized old geezer? Yuri cocked his head to the side, unable to recall such a character from his guild days. Makarov feels as if a knife stabbed into his heart over having his father calling him an old geezer. While Laxus looked like he struggled to hold back a chuckle. That would be Makarov Dreyar, your son. Hades revealed, and Yuri blinked a couple of times, his brain processing what he just heard. Yuri slowly turned his head to Prect. Oi, Prect, did you just say that old midget is my son? That is right, Prect casually confirmed, not that he really cared anyway. Yuri nearly fell over from the shock, had it not been for Nineheart's spell keeping him in place, and for the fact that he was dead, he would have probably passed out from shock. And no way, my son looks like an old little midget. My little adorable Makarov, mine and Rita's treasure. Geez, try to show some restraint pops. Makarov grumbled underneath his breath. Adorable little Makarov, Laxus gave a cheeky smirk at his grandfather. Not a word, Laxus. Makarov twitched his eyes. Well, I guess he is still little. Yuri gave an internal sigh. By the way, I am Laxus Dreyar, your great-grandson. Laxus casually added. Yuri gasped, looking a little pale and like his hair was about to fall off. Gee great-grandson, and my grandchild. I had a son, named Ivan. Makarov solemnly added, although he didn't want to mention that his son turned evil and was now dead. Oh okay. Yuri couldn't help but feel awkward over this sudden family reunion. And is he here? Yuri was merely met with a head shake from Makarov. No surprise, Ivan left the guild after the boy failed at fatherhood, and created a dark guild. Hades on the other hand, didn't have the same courtesy as Makarov by sparring Yuri from the news of his grandson. Makarov balled his fists in anger. Ivan fell to darkness because you drove him to it, with empty promises of power and knowledge. You even revealed to him what you told was meant as a secrecy between only us guild masters. Hades remained unfazed by this, but Yuri looked in disbelief. False. I did teach him the true ways of magic. The darkness. I also merely told him of the existence of Lumen Histoire. Not what it was, or its true purpose. That is only even worse. You drove him mad with the potential possession of power. And now he is dead because of it. Makarov choked on his words, as he realized his mistake. Ah, I see, Ivan is dead, eh? Oh well, what a waste. Hades shrugged it off like it meant nothing to him. Precht, what the hell? Yuri shouted in absolute outrage. What is wrong with you? You drove my grandson to his death, and you don't care. What difference does it make? The child is dead, nothing that can be done about it now. Who knows, maybe he was revived like us. Precht's lack of empathy only shocked Yuri further, as he remembered Precht was a caring person. What happened to you? Yuri asked with only a sad look in his eyes over seeing one of his dearest friends like this. Times changes people, Yuri. Hades replied in a solemn tone. Yet none took a drastic change as you, Precht. I may have changed appearance-wise. But you, fell to the darkness, and even started the biggest dark guild Ishgar has ever seen. Until Tartaros took over all your branches of lower dark guilds. Ward made the first move, quickly restraining his two former comrades with trees popping up from underneath them and surrounding their bodies like snakes. All of you leave, we shall take care of these two. Makarov declared as he stood next to Ward, giving his children a chance to escape before the battle begins. Yet, one person stayed by the old former guild master's side. That includes you too, Laxus. The lightning dragon slayer however, did not budge. He threw his coat to the side, and cracked his knuckles as he glared at Hades and Yuri. No way I'm leaving you behind, Gramps. If you threw your back out, who would save your sorry ass? Laxus gave a snarky remark, as lightning crackled around his body. Fine. Reluctantly Makarov allowed Laxus to stay. When it came down to it, his grandson was extremely powerful. Even more so than Makarov himself now, and the old man knew it. But the rest of you, leave. Warren was quick to nod, and rushed out the front door along with several others. Kanna looked hesitant to leave at first, wondering if she could be of any help. It didn't seem right to her, just to run off while Laxus, Makarov and Ward stays behind to fight. Damn it, Kanna cursed underneath her breath, although as she was about to turn around to join the fight, a figure appeared before her. Whoa, Kanna backed up in shock, as Mavis Vermilion stood before her. First. Quick, follow me, I need your help with something. Mavis floated in the air, and headed towards a back door. Kanna without hesitation followed the projection of the founding master of her guild. Now that the rats have scattered away, Hades and Yuri with a mere flex of their magical auras, broke free from Ward's restraints. Let's get this show on the road. Hades held his hand out like a gun, and shot a magical bullet from his fingertip towards Laxus. Laxus stared calmly at the incoming magic bullet, and with ease slapped it aside. You've been dead a long time, geezer, and I've gotten a whole lot stronger since the last time we fought. Laxus declared, and suddenly blitzed Hades' field of vision and appearing right in his face. Laxus reared his head back, and headbutted the reanimated Precht, lightning sparking between their foreheads as Laxus knocked Hades back several feet. Indeed, I should give you credit, grandson of Makarov. You have gotten stronger, but don't be so insolent, to ever assume I have ever fought you seriously in the first place. Hades' aura blew up around him, his power swelling and seeming endless due to his reanimated body giving him an endless supply of Ethernano. Had the roof of the Guildhall not already been blown off from Yuri's entry, then it surely would have now. And if you think Warren and the boy backing you up is enough, then you are just as foolish as your grandfather. Are we going to talk, or fight, old man? Laxus snarled, not even faced by Hades' power. Or do you maybe need to ask your new master for permission? Laxus taunted, as the reanimated master of Grimoire Heart had become less than a slave to Nineheart. Without uttering another word, Hades and Yuri both attacked. One less compliant than the other of course, but was forced into action nonetheless. Yuri started by leaping from wall to wall like a bolt of lightning. Watch out, Yuri is charging up energy and power with his speed. His attacks will only grow stronger the more he keeps moving. Yuri quickly appeared behind Warren, knocking him upside the head with a drop kick that sent the tree man falling face first into the floor. Laxus quickly countered his bouncing great-grandfather, locking hands as they went into a power struggle. While Hades then made his move, making a magic circle beneath both Yuri and Laxus. Amaterasu Formula 100. A huge amount of magical energy gathered around them, and detonated in a mighty explosion. Laxus. Makarov expanded his hand into giant size, and caught his incoming grandson like a baseball. Laxus was covered in bruises and light burns from Hades' sneak attack. Bastard, he even went for his own teammate. Laxus snarled. Hey, naturally, we are reanimated, our bodies will just regenerate from such injuries. Hades declared as Anke Yuri's damaged body was regenerating itself as if nothing had happened. Not only that, but once Yuri gets his quick charge, powered up, you are all done for. As not only is our supply of Ethernano unlimited, but so is our stamina. Meaning I will keep growing stronger the more I move around. Yuri cursed underneath his breath that his technique was being used to harm his family and friends. Yuri quickly returned from bouncing from wall to wall, like a lightning bolt. And at random, crashing into Laxus, Ward and Makarov, and for each bounce he made, the power of his attacks increased bit by bit. There really is no use then, just run. Yuri warned his son, and great-grandson as he charged towards them again. Laxus however, reacted and countered Yuri's incoming attack, catching his lightning-covered fist mere inches before his face. Don't underestimate us, Super Gramps. Laxus then slammed a lightning-powered uppercut strike to Yuri, sending him flying. Makarov followed up by turning himself into a giant, gathering his two giant hands together, and sledgehammering his father to the ground. Now Laxus. Together. Light bullet. Raging bolt. First Makarov shot a giant bullet of light from his giant fingertip, the bullet engulfed Yuri's body. The floorboards getting torn to shred and pushed into a small crater as the blast started burning away at the impure resurrected body of Yuri. Following his grandfather's lead, Laxus slammed his fist down, sending a bolt of lightning raining into his great-grandfather. The flashing lights were blinding, as the bolt struck Yuri, the crackling sound fading away, as the bolt had buried itself into Yuri's chest, blowing a hole straight through him. Yuri looked in sheer astonishment, at how powerful that attack was. Hey, attaboy Makarov, Laxus. Yuri smiled with pride and joy, overseeing how his bloodline has been running strong. However, things weren't nearly done just yet. A massive surge of electricity began charging up from Yuri, to the point where him sprinting looked like a bolt of lightning flying around. Ward, recalling this technique of Yuri's, was quick to plot a counter-strike. Sacred Fairy Tree. The floorboards broke open, as shooting out were massive tree vines. And not just within the guild, but the very center of Magnolia as well. These vines carried pink sakura-like flowers on them. Hades, seeing this spell from Ward, was also quick to act. You may know our tricks, Ward, but you forget, we know all of yours as well. Hades generated his intense, sickening dark magic power, to which a black magic circle formed beneath the entire guild. You will go no further, Ward declared, as the flowers began to spread a thick dense pollen. The pollen, like they were being carried by the wind, gathered onto the bodies of Hades and Yuri. All this pollen prevented any sudden movements from them, and even carried them into the skies above. Blooming season. Ward raised his arms, his hands held out directed at his two former companions. And then, he balled his hands into fists as if he intended to crush them. The pollen began to glow in an intense burning flame-like glow, looking like two shining suns hovering above Magnolia. The lights of the pollen flashing like they were bombs about to go off. However, Hades was also done with his counter-attack, the dark magic circle's glow intensifying. Gates of the underworld. A pillar of dark purple light exploded from the magic circle, shooting beyond the clouds and into the heavens. Ward cried in anguish, as his wooden body looked like it was rotting. And his magic tree withered away like it had been struck by a death wave from Zirf himself. And thus, the pollen bombs on Yuri and Hades vanished as well. HMPH, and I have learned new things with dark sorcery. Yuri, finish things. You must have charged up a big enough of a blast by now. Damn it, everyone, run for your lives. This attack will be big enough to annihilate all of Magnolia. Yuri attempted to warn their comrades, although even he knew it was nearly impossible to escape this next attack of his. Anger of gods. Dark clouds loomed in the sky, and raging crackling thunder all gathered into one single concentrated spot. With additional lightning from Yuri himself added to the mix. Oh no, Yuri used this spell to annihilate whole armies in the past, Warad wheezed, his heart feeling weak after Hade's attack. However, a towering figure stood strong and eyed the thunderstorm. What appeared as the figure of a giant made out of lightning stuck its head out from the clouds and roared. As if a god himself had opened up the heavens, to deliver divine judgment upon all of humanity. Its roars sounding like thunder strikes, and then in a flash it rained down upon Magnolia. The mighty thunder clap echoing through the valleys beyond the town, as a massive dome of electricity formed itself around Magnolia, ready to pulverize the city to dust. Then, however, the dome shrunk, looking like it was getting sucked in through a vortex. The surging lightning, all entered the mouth of the mighty Laxus. Electricity crackling around the lightning dragon slayer. Something that resembled scales forming on his forearms, and around the frame of his face. Laxus looked at the shocked expression of Yuri, who would have been relieved that his attack was somehow stopped. But couldn't help but question how Laxus managed to eat lightning. Thus, Laxus smirked and playfully patted himself on the stomach. Sorry, Super Gramps, but lightning doesn't work on a lightning dragon slayer. That's right, like Natsu-kun with his fire, Laxus can eat lightning. Warad couldn't believe he had let that part slip his mind. It seems they might just have a chance at winning this battle. Meanwhile, another reanimated warrior of Nineheart had managed to sneak into the guildhall whilst the fight was taking place. Having stayed in the shadows, he moved silently down to the cellars of the guildhall. Moving like a speck of darkness, the massive hulking form of Simon Mikazuchi appeared in the center of the cellar of the Fairy Tail Guild, that had been made into a jail. Sitting in her cell, Brandish looked conflicted. Mere moments ago, her own subordinate had tried to rape and kill her and take her place in the Spriggan 12. She would have been dead now, if it weren't for Lucy and the rest of the Fairy Tail Guildhall catching Marin in the act. Why would they save me? Why would she save me? Grinding her teeth in rage, her restricted tied-up hands balling into fists behind her back. Her thoughts annoyed her, and it didn't help that Marin's endless wailing in the cell next door was nagging at her mind. Marin was terrified what Invil would do to him, once they send reinforcements and set them free. They were going to know he compromised the mission out of his own hatred for Brandish. Let me out, help, that crazy bitch will kill me. Marin wailed like a spoiled little child. Then, Simon made his presence known and the two prisoners jolted in surprise. Who are you? Marin questioned, scanning the body of Simon for any sort of emblem to signify where his allegiance was to. Brandish however noticed it straight away, this man standing before them was a walking corpse. One of Nineheart's walking corpses. Have you come to set us free? Brandish calmly asked the reanimated Simon. Nineheart-samas, hey big guy, get me out of here, and we will retrieve Fairy Heart for his majesty. Marin groveled like a dog, beginning that he would at least be set free first so he could escape Brandish's wrath. Helping you is not my wish. Simon glared at the begging form of Marin. You are enemies of Urza's guild, I will not. Simon's body froze, and his pupils turned white. Now, Simon-kun. You seem to think you have a choice. You are my slave now. Simon's voice shifted to Nineheart's, and instantly Marin began to grovel again. Nineheart-sama, release me. With my space magic ability, we can take Fairy Heart and deliver it to his majesty. Nineheart seemed unamused by the groveling form of Marin, although puzzled at the same time. And you are? Marin looked shocked, and felt annoyed that Nineheart didn't recognize him. I am the second in command of Brandish's division. I am a space magic specialist. Invil-sama sent me here to retrieve Fairy Heart. Marin's eyes were twitching, annoyed that he had to beg for his life like this. Oh, is that so? Naughty Invil, planning something like this behind the rest of the 12's back. And you, Brandish, did Invel's plan involve you getting captured? Nineheart chuckled in amusement, clearly pleased to see Brandish in a cage and in need of his help. It's too annoying to tell you. Piss off you grave-digging asshole. Brandish refused to be looked down upon by Nineheart, and glared daggers at him. My, how scary. Nineheart merely brushed it off with a chuckle. Nineheart-sama, Brandish has betrayed us. She didn't take down the Fairy Tail Wizards, even if she easily could have. Marin accused his former owner, finally feeling freedom on the horizon. As it was clear Nineheart and Brandish didn't get along. Free me, and let's punish her. Is this really your second in command? Neinhardt ignored Marin however, and kept his focus on Brandish. Former. Brandish replied, I see. Neinhardt had Simon use his muscular arms to rip open the cell bars of Brandish's cell like they were made of rubber. And then removed the ethernano-canceling cuffs on her wrists and ankles. Now then, feel free to go wild on the town. Some of my strongest reanimated corpses are fighting for Fairy Heart at the moment. While I will send this one to retrieve it. Brandish stood there motionlessly, rotating her sore wrists a bit as she felt the block on her ethernano was gone, and her magic power surged through her body at an intense rate. It was a wonderful sensation, made her feel powerful. Fine, this is annoying anyway. Brandish grabbed her coat that hung on a clothing hanger outside of her cell. Once she felt like a noble member of the 12 again, she made her way out, ready to leave this stinking cellar. Oh wait, she almost forgot. Brandish stepped before the cell of her former second-in-command Marin, looking down on him with a stoic unreadable expression. Marin quivered in fear, and quickly went on his knees lowering his head. Forgive me Brandish-sama. I don't know what came over me. I would never betray you, Lady Brandish. You will always be pass in my book. Your magnificent power, an empress-like attitude, are all a pass. I will be happy to be your dog again. Brandish remained stoic as she recalled Marin's recent betrayal in her head. How he tried to rape her, and kill her to take her place. Marin shakingly held his hands out showing his cuffs. And now please, Brandish-sama, if you could just use your magic to free me from these. I will help you take down this entire stinking failure of a town. Brandish lazily raised her dominant arm, holding her hand out towards Marin. Marin looked both fearful and hopeful. Unable to read the stoic expression of Brandish, he wasn't sure where he stood with her at the moment. Brandish then twirled her hand a bit, and Marin gasped, as at an alarming rate, he was swelling up. Marin let out pained cries, as his body was swelling up, his inner organs were expanding in size making him look like a balloon. Be Brandish-sama, coming out as incoherent cries, tears flooded down Marin's eyes, while Brandish continued to glare coldly at him. And with a snap of her fingers, Marin's body popped like a balloon. And blood splattered all around his cell. Now I feel much better. Brandish casually brushed off some brain matter from her shoulder, and walked out from the cellar along with the reanimated Simon, leaving this bloodied scene behind. As soon as Brandish stepped a foot outside of the cellar, her eyes drifted to the obvious battle happening in the guild mess hall. Showing little interest, she merely exited the building through its back door along with the reanimated Simon who was still under Neinhardt's control. How do you plan to get to Fairy Heart even? It's not like you know where it is. I have a pretty good idea where to look. This young woman walked in some sort of hidden entrance leading to some underground pathway. Neinhardt recalled having Simon hide in the shade of some rubble using his magic, while spying on Kana who at the time was following the projection of Mavis Vermilion. Of course, Neinhardt didn't know Mavis was leading Kana, as without the fairy tale emblem he could not see her. Brandish looked wary as her senses heightened. She sensed a familiar magic power nearby. What is it that I'm sensing? Oh, that's right, I have a surprise for you my dear Brandish. Neinhardt's cackle to Brandish felt like something was driving a nail through her ear. Neinhardt annoyed her, but seeing as he wasn't really here there wasn't much she could do about it. I have revived someone from your memories, as well as the memory of a certain fairy tale wizard. A person that played a great part in both yours and her history. Brandish could literally feel Neinhardt's cocky smirk through his voice link with Simon. Can you guess who? He. Only one person popped up in the corner of Brandish's mind. The person she hated more than anything in this world. Layla Hartfilia. Seems you know, huh? Neinhardt smirked. In response Brandish held her hand out directed at Simon. I had enough of your voice for one day. Brandish's magic power spiked up, and swelled at an intense rate causing the rubble around them to fling itself into the air. Command T. Expansion. Simon's reanimated body was launched into the air, as a pebble beneath his feet grew to the size of a massive tower. Brandish kept the tower narrow to prevent others from noticing it too much. Brandish. Neinhardt's roaring voice echoed as his comlink in Simon was flung to the other side of Magnolia. Now that pain in the ass was gone, Brandish redirected her focus. Looking between the fairy tale Guildhall, where the battle between Laxus, Makarov and Ward against Hades and Yuri was taking place. And to the direction of what appeared to be wilderness, but also where she sensed that familiar magic power. Would she seek some form of vengeance? Or would she complete her mission from Invil? Brandish squinted her eyes, an internal conflict taking place in her mind. Meanwhile, where Simon's reanimated body had been flung, Nineheart cursed Brandish in her short temper, but Nineheart knew he may have pushed her too far. Using his power, Nineheart forced Simon to pick himself up from the rubble. Get back to the Fairy Tail Guild, and capture Fairy Heart. Nineheart ordered. Roger. Simon replied robotically, although suddenly froze, picking up a familiar magical energy signature nearby. Simon's pupils returned to their chestnut brown as he gained consciousness from feeling this energy. Simon took a little detour. Despite hearing the disapproving screams of Nineheart in his head, he marched forward. Do I need to take extra control over you? You weakling. Nineheart roared, although quickly gasped as he felt his control slipping. Sweat poured down his forehead as he almost lost control over some far more valuable pieces than Simon. Damn, my concentration is stretched thin because of those 6, Yuri Drayar, the Hyper Lightning Bolt, Prekt Gaybold, Hades the Master of Grimoire Heart, Milkovich, the Ice Witch, Obito Uchiha, Madara's Shadow, Fugaku Uchiha, Wicked-Eyed Fugaku, and Layla Heartfilia, the Celestial Queen. Screw it, Simon is a mere pawn anyway, guess I will sacrifice him. Nineheart bit his fingernail as frustration. Sorry Madara-sama, but it will take longer to obtain Fairy Heart. A smile then crept up on his face, as he noticed movement on the battlefield. Although it seems more compliant warriors are nearing Magnolia, in Nineheart's mind, he could see the reanimated Historia Tensei warriors of Cain and Rustairos of the 7 kin of Purgatory from Grimoire Heart. Simon's detour led him to the entrance gate to Magnolia, seeing a group of people walking towards it. And in front, was the Mermaid Heel Master and Wizard Saint Beatrice. And in her arms, she was carrying Kagura Mikazuchi. Beatrice gasped in shock, cursing that Simon had to be here now. Simon, Miliana also gasped, as she along with Sho and Wally eyed their former companion with sadness. However, hearing Miliana, Kagura's body flinched. Weakly opening her eyes, the Ace of Mermaid Heel's eyes tried to adjust their sight as all she saw this massive tall blurry figure in their path. Kagura. Simon nearly choked. He was in utter disbelief. Images of their hometown on fire, and losing his dearest younger sister in the chaos. And on board the slave ship to the Tower of Heaven, there was no sign of his sister. And all he heard were the cackling slavers bragging how they killed everyone else in town. The mere sound of his voice hit something in Kagura, her eyes shot open and her sight adjusted. Although the voice was deeper than what she remembered, and his appearance having drastically changed. Kagura felt it in her heart, this person standing before her, this ghost from the past, was her brother Simon. Those fiends of the Spriggan 12. Her hands balled into fists, as she recalled those zombie warriors as Miliana called them, those who had been brought back to fight. And Kisame revealing it was the work of one of the 12 most likely. So, this is one of those reanimated warriors. Kisame and Kakuzu stepped forward to take care of it. Without a doubt they felt the endless magic power emitting from him. Let's finish him quickly and regroup with the first defense squad. Before that Demaria follows us here. Kisame and Kakuzu were ready to attack. Wait, Kagura shouted, as she pushed herself out from Beatrice's hold. Kagura-chan, you shouldn't be moving around that much, even with Sharia's healing you still haven't recovered from your battle against Demaria. Beatrice knew how difficult this must be for Kagura, which is why she had hoped someone else, or her personally would have dealt with Simon before Kagura could meet him. It's fine, Beatrice-sama. Kagura limped over to Kisame, and snagged her archenemy from him. Although Kisame halted her by grabbing onto the sword as well, looking at her with a serious gaze. Are you sure about this? You can barely stand. Kagura responded to the shark man with a fiery glare. Nothing was going to stop her, it screamed from her eyes. I have to do this, he is my brother. Kagura didn't have the strength to yank the archenemy out from Kisame's grip. So, he could stop her if he wanted. Please. As such, all Kagura could do, was ask. Kisame stayed quiet, as he only looked into her eyes. Seeing the burning passion, Kisame loosened his hold, and let go of the sword. Very well, don't come crying to me if anything else gets broken. Kagura gave a nod of appreciation. Kagura-chan. Miliana tried to stop her, but suddenly Sho and Wally stepped forward along with Kagura. We hold some fault, we weren't able to help Simon in the end. Sho summoned a deck of cards into his hand. A real man owes up to his mistakes. Wally made a reload motion of his arm gun. Master, I will stay here and help Kagura-chan. Go regroup with the others. Miliana joined them, to battle her old friend. Kagura-chan, Miliana-chan, Beatrice looked like a concerned mother worried for the safety of her children. Her motherly instinct screaming at her to prevent this fight from happening. But Beatrice knew, in Kagura's mind this was something she had to do. Shark man, your name was Kisame, right? Huh, yeah, Kisame was a bit taken off that the mermaid heel master decided to address him in this situation. Could you stay here and make sure they don't die? Beatrice's request was met with a lot of baffled gasps. It was no secret that Kisame and Kakuzu were untrustworthy to most, due to the fact they looked kind of shady and weren't a part of a legal guild. But Beatrice couldn't deny, they were powerful, and they were greatly trusted by Itachi Uchiha. Why me exactly? Kisame looked just confused, to which Beatrice just smiled. Well, Miliana seems to have taken a liking to you. She did nibble on your neck for quite some time. To this Miliana tail rose up, and her face was as red as a tomato. Master Beatrice, Miliana shrieked, recalling that she woke up on Kisame's back while nibbling on his neck. She even left a hickey mark on him. Miliana was such a nervous wreck, she nearly died from embarrassment and had quickly jumped off the shark man's back and tried to avoid him for the rest of the trip. Beatrice gave a light giggle at the reaction from her cute little cat girl child. She then turned back to Kisame, who seemed to want a better explanation, although he awkwardly tried to cover up his hickey mark by pretending to scratch his neck. Well and you are strong. Strong enough to help them, and strong enough to hold of that woman should she catch up before they finish this battle. Beatrice referred to Demaria of the Spriggan 12, who would without a doubt advance on Magnolia soon to obtain Fairy Heart. Okay, I understand, I will keep the kids safe. Kisame sat down onto a rock, to observe the fight that was about to take place. A reanimated warrior with an endless supply of Ethernano and stamina, against a heavily injured Kagura, a cat girl, a blocky-shaped guy, and card trickster. I shall also stay behind, Richard announced, walking a bit awkwardly as he still hadn't adapted to only having one eye. His battle against Demaria's second-in-command, Linda, having claimed his left eye. I refuse to let Wally out of my sights again. Brother, Wally seemed a little embarrassed over how overprotective his brother acted. It seems my caster has loosened his control of me. Please make haste quickly, Simon warned as his body was trembling, fearing Neinhard would force him to attack all these people. You won't be able to harm us anyway, don't worry. Kakuzu straight out called Simon a weakling, even though compared to Kakuzu, Beatrice, Sharia, Wendy etc. Simon was a weakling. Beatrice made way with the rest of the group of survivors from Harjan towards Magnolia. Simon, Kagura, despite having wanted to stay here, had no idea what to even say to her brother after all these years. What was she supposed to say? Luckily, Simon noticed her awkwardness and made things a little easier. Kagura, you've grown so much since I last saw you. So strong, and so beautiful. Simon might have broken into tears if he could cry. The sight of his little sister, who he long since thought was dead, made him feel very emotional, to say the least. I'm sorry I wasn't there to see you grow up, but how did you survive? Urza saved my life, hid me while she distracted the slavers. Kagura looked guilty, for having been spared the fate of slavery unlike her brother and Urza. Hehe, I see, Urza sounds like something she would do. Simon smiled with nostalgia, recalling his last meeting with Urza and his death at the hand of Jalal. Kagura, please, destroy me before Urza sees me. She would without a doubt be overcome with guilt. And I don't want her to see me like this. Kagura swallowed a nervous lump in her throat. She had resolved herself to do this. And yet, she couldn't bring herself to do it. But she had to. Her brother was suffering in this state and should be allowed to rest. Shakingly, she went into a battle stance, a single tear dripping down from her eye. Her gaze hardened like steel, as the gravity around them felt like it increased by a bit from her unleashing her magic power. Brother, I will make sure you get your well-deserved rest soon enough. Simon nodded and smiled. Forgive this failure of an older brother, for having to force you to do this. No, it's not your fault, nor is it Jalal's fault, it's all those slavers' fault, and their damn cult. At the mentioning of his killer, Simon tensed a bit. Speaking of Jalal, is he? Simon nearly couldn't bring himself to say it. Regardless of how it ended, he and Jalal were good friends as kids. Alive, Urza along with Itachi Uchiha convinced me to spare him, although I can't say I fully forgive him for taking you away from me. Kagura let out a tired sigh. Although Jalal didn't matter to her at this point, he still mattered to Urza. Good, so Jalal was able to free himself from his mind control after all. I'm glad. Simon smiled with genuine relief to hear Jalal was back to normal and still alive. Then suddenly his mind went blank, and his body went numb. Even though I am stretched thin, I can still control you enough to compel you to fight. Nineheart's voice echoed in the back of his mind as Simon's body moved on its own and he went in for the attack. Simon's attack is however hindered by a case of blocks floating midair. The blocks form itself into a cannon, and blast Simon right in the face. We've spent these 8 years training, buddy. We are more dandier than ever. Wally declared as he blasted Simon's body with machine gun fire of magic bullets, having formed a Gatling gun out from his stomach. And before Simon could move out of the line of fire, his limbs were quickly restrained by Miliana's ropes. Followed by a surge of pink electricity from the ropes that would have fried or numbed a living person. Simon attempted to counter with his shadow magic, only for the darkness to get snuffed away and sucked into a playing card. We're way stronger than we used to be, even stronger than you. Sho held a hand of playing cards, and threw them like throwing stars. The cards glowing in the same shadow magical element as Simon's. Simon shielded his body with his arms, the cards stabbing into his forearms. Wally has learned to shape weapons from his whole body, and Sho can even entrap magic attacks of his opponents and use it against them. And Miliana, although she hasn't changed much, I can tell the hold of her rope is way stronger than before. I see, you three have indeed grown stronger. Simon acknowledged in his mind, although then his entire body released a shadowy mist. However, we'll just have to see if you really have surpassed me or not. Dark moment, then in a split second, all light was removed from the battlefield, leaving everyone in total darkness. The sound of heavy hits, and the groans of Miliana, Wally and Sho came from the darkness. Both laid on the ground, Sho with a broken nose, Miliana clutching onto her gut where she was punched, and Wally with blood coming from his lips. Simon towering over them, although they themselves could not see through this darkness. And now, dark burrs, before Simon can launch his second attack, the wind is knocked out of him. As the edge of the sheeted archenemy slams into his torso, with Kagura standing tall. She pushes herself forward, and launches Simon's entire body into the sky. And with Simon gone, the range of his dark moment spell fades and light returns for the others. She moved through my dark moment without me detecting her. Simon looks completely caught off guard. How did his sister slip under his radar? Then he saw it, she was emitting the same magical aura he was. She knew how to use his magic, and used it to cloak herself. I waited for the perfect moment when Nissan would have his guard down. Using dark moment as a cover, to use my dark cloak to slip under his senses, I was able to approach him unnoticeable. Kagura balled her hands together, tightening her grip on the handle of her archenemy. Still my body is heavily strained, I can feel my muscles crying out in pain from moving too much. Kagura reflected on the past, thought back to her brother, how their village was attacked, how her brother was caught a slave, and died without having tasted freedom. Still, compared to Simon's suffering, this is nothing. Kagura steeled herself, and took a giant leap after Simon. I will end this quickly. Kagura raised her archenemy, charging up a gravity attack. Swift mermaid tail strike. Kagura swung her archenemy down onto Simon's body, an explosion of a shockwave blew through the sky. And Simon was sent blasting down like a meteorite to the grasslands outside of Magnolia's gates. Kagura quickly took chase, altering the gravitational field around herself to take a what was supposed to be a mere flip, but appeared as if she took a giant leap out from the sky. Unsheathing her blade, Kagura plummeted at near light speed towards Simon with her blade ready. Simon, as he picked himself up from the ground, only heard the slicing sound of a sword, and in a split second Kagura appeared behind him. Tears shedding from the corner of her eyes. And then Simon's body split apart into multiple pieces. Simon was quiet, although the sound of his body reattaching itself reached their ears. Kagura slowly limped over to the mangled form of Simon, tears still running down her eyes. Simon was healing, although slowly, and could easily be destroyed here and now. Well done, Kagura, you've gotten so strong. I'm proud. I got this strong so I could save you. I found this sword, to aid me in my quest to save you. Kagura, out of frustration and guilt, clenched her fists, while tears uncontrollably ran down her face. And yet, I was too weak, too late. You even died a slave, I couldn't help you get a breath of freedom. Simon smiled overhearing how much effort his sister put in trying to find him, and save him, even though he thought she was dead. That makes me so happy, I'm so happy, to see what kind of woman you have become. To see, that in the end, in a sense, I was able to help you gain this strength, at least, as your brother, I was able to help you in that regard. I have no more regrets. Simon, do you have anything you want us to tell Urza? Miliana carefully asked, she knew that Simon was in love with Urza. Do you want us to tell her, that you? She already knows I'm sure, in the end, I could tell, she knew. Thank you, Miliana, Wally, I am pleased to see how you've all grown. Simon's right arm had already reattached itself. So, Wally with tears running down behind his glasses, raised his cannon arm charging up a blast. And whilst also crying readied lightning charge playing cards. Miliana quietly sobbed over having to part ways with her friend once again, whilst charging up a kitten blast. Kagura shakingly, raised her archenemy to deal one last final blow. Simon smiled kindly upon seeing her crying face, trying to give some sort of comfort to his sister. Kagura, earlier you said I died a slave, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I never felt as free, as I did back then. I opposed Jalal, and saved Urza's life, while dying in her arms. I couldn't have asked for a better death. Back then, Urza set me free from my shackles. Now, it is your turn. To free me. Kagura choked on her words, barely able to muster them out from her lips. This would be the last time she could speak to her brother, she needed to end it on a positive note. Thank you, for raising me, thank you, for giving me the motive to grow strong, thank you, for being born my brother, Kagura shakingly uttered, and Simon smiled warmly accepting his sister's words. I love you, she finally uttered. And I will love you always, Simon replied, and then he was overcome with a flash of light. As Wally, Miliana and Kagura simultaneously unleashed their attack. Kisame and Richard both silently watched from the sidelines, as the white light exploded into a pillar of light, that erased Simon's reanimated body. Richard sobbing a bit as well, feeling touched at seeing what sort of friendships Wally had formed. Kagura stood before the smoking black spot on the ground before them, where flakes of what remained of the reanimated body of Simon rained down. Falling to her knees, Kagura cried, "Whoever revived my brother, you will get what's coming your way. You and the rest of this Alvarez Empire." Kagura swore, looking into the sky, and her message was made its way to the other end. Is that so? Hey, we'll see about that. Nineheart smirked as he eyed the mainland from his ship. Meanwhile, back within the Kamui dimension, violent explosions rocked the fabric of this dimension. Soaring like a laser beam of darkness, Itachi took quick chase after Obito, who had resulted in spamming his Kamui to avoid blows from Itachi and create a distance. Obito knew that without the endless supply of chakra he had gained by being a reanimated shinobi, Itachi would have caught him ages ago and he would be dead. It's not like you, to just charge head-on like this. Obito noticed Itachi's rather odd behavior. Itachi didn't respond and kept up the chase. Obito, in an attempt to halt him, had one of the giant rock pillars in the Kamui dimension flip up and sending it plummeting Itachi's way. Itachi merely eyed the incoming pillar, which eclipsed him in size. Darkness growing from his shoulders and over his arms, making them appear as demonic claws. Itachi kept his eyes focused on the pillar, his right eye getting bloodshot, and tears of blood running down his eye. Amaterasu. The top of the pillar caught on fire, in a blazing inferno of the black divine-like flames. Itachi grabbed onto the plummeting end of the pillar, and with ease due to his enhanced stage 2 demon form strength, tossed the now burning pillar back at Obito. The sound of Itachi chucking the pillar towards Obito sounded like a gunshot. Obito looked caught off guard. He had not expected Itachi to grab onto the pillar and throw it back at him. Impossible. These pillars are made out of hardest material known, even one weighs up to 500,000 tons. The black flames of Amaterasu had already spread across the entire pillar. It looked like a burning missile of black fire. The flames spread across the dimension, catching several other pillars on fire. Obito's Mangekyu flared up as he attempted to escape with the Kamui. However, blitzing Obito and reaching his blind spot was Itachi, having appeared behind the older Uchiha as he was about to teleport away. Before Obito could even turn his head to look at Itachi, Itachi had smacked his demonic claw into Obito's back, and all Obito heard was the sound of the shockwave that came from the blow dealt to him. Obito couldn't register what had happened, even as he was plummeting down towards the burning pillar. Obito was left speechless at the level of strength Itachi had displayed. And he was ready to embrace his fate. Without a doubt this burning pillar would tear him apart. And if that wasn't enough, the flames would certainly finish the job. However, Nineheart was having none of it, compelling Obito to use one of the abilities of his other eye. Obito's Rinnegan unleashed a mighty gravitational push of energy, Shinra Tensei. The exploding shockwave tore the pillar asunder. The structure of the pillar already weakened at the Amaterasu eating away at it. The black flames were also blown away, and Obito flicked his body around midair looking up at Itachi. Bansho Tenin, surrounding Itachi's being, was a gravitational pull. He was pulled in towards Obito at great intense speed. Yet the young Uchiha hardly seemed worried, even as out from Obito's right arm came out a black rod that was aimed to stab Itachi through his heart. Itachi's eyes widened, as he poured chakra into his eyes, his Mangekyo responding, and his eyes expanding into the Rinnegan. The darkness around Itachi's right arm split open, and Itachi's right hand then started moving strangely. His fingers dividing and opening up, his palm opening revealing a cannon of sorts. Asura path. Hey, fool, with the gravity pulling you and you can't get proper aim. Nineheart chuckled as he watched through Obito's eyes at Itachi's attempt. And almost as if Itachi could read Nineheart's mind and hear his words, he smirked. You really should get a better understanding of basic physics. Even though his aim was a bit off, Itachi shot out a laser beam of pure energy. You openly attempt to pull me in towards you. This gravitational pull makes sure my attacks won't miss. And true to his words, the blast soared in towards Obito, hitting him dead center. Obito was knocked off balance from the blast, his clothes torn and smoke emitting from his body. Itachi then came flying in, grabbing onto Obito's face and smacking the back of his head onto the pillar. The pillar cracked open, as did Obito's skull. My turn, Itachi uttered as he unleashed a similar gravitational field around him. Shinra Tensei. The gravitational push pushed Obito's body down into the pillar breaking apart in pieces. Obito was gasping as his upper body was mostly torn apart, his senses nearly knocked out of him. Yet due to his reanimated body he made a speedy recovery. You have the Rinnegan now. Obito chuckled, amazed that Itachi was able to achieve the final stage. Hey caster, I know you can hear me, Obito called out to Nineheart. Just give it up, I can't beat this guy. And neither can you. Nineheart grumbled, his hand clenching onto the armrests of his chair breaking them apart. We're not done yet. Nineheart's raging scream echoed through Obito's mind as he made Obito utilize a last resort. Chibaku Tensei, from Obito's palms, generated out a black sphere of energy. And the sphere carried such a gravitational pull that all the rubble from the pillars they had destroyed through their battle rose into the sky, and gathered onto the sphere. Itachi shakingly stood on a floating rock as he was pulled in towards the ever-growing miniature planet. Useless, Obito muttered, a smirk creeping up on his face. It's over. At hearing that, Nineheart smirked with glee and a sense of victory. Itachi, however, merely sighed as the darkness on his body spread into a cloak. Horns growing out from his forehead, and black lines going over his eyes. The black symbol E forming onto his chest. Holding his right claw out, Itachi generated a sphere of pure demonic energy. The sphere made a swirling sound like a saw blade. Dark Solar Itachi chucked the rotating spinning sphere. The tiny sphere of demonic energy flung itself towards the miniature planet. For you that is, caster. Obito smirked and Nineheart gasped, followed with a cold nervous sweat running down his back. The Dark Solar clashed into the Chibaku Tensei, and in a split second there was a black glimmer of light. Then there was a massive explosion that engulfed the entire space. The Chibaku Tensei crumbled in on itself, as the core exploded and rubble scattered across the entire dimension like rain. Obito picked himself up, looking at the still black smoke cloud in the sky. His eyes picking up the remains of the destructive demonic energy left by Itachi's attack. Such destructive energy, it even rivals a blast from the Jubi. The smoke dispersed, with the sound of mighty flaps that generated great amounts of wind. And flying in the air, was Itachi. His demonic cloak of darkness having split into demonic wings. Did you do all this just to show off? We both know you didn't need this much power to deal with me. Perhaps I wanted to frighten the caster of this reanimation. Itachi landed before Obito, and the darkness parted ways with his body. Itachi's Rinnegan sent a burning gaze through Obito, although, it was directed at Nineheart which didn't go unnoticed. the Spriggan member flinching at just seeing Itachi's gaze through his link with Obito. That gaze, it screamed of power. It was like standing face to face with Madara. And yet, you didn't even use up a quarter of your chakra. Impressive, Obito commended. It was a bit unsure for him to even tell if Itachi didn't have an endless supply of energy like him. Veins were bulging from Nineheart's neck, his temple, he was grinding his teeth in anger. Even his strongest reanimated warrior couldn't hold a candle to Itachi's power. It doesn't make any sense. According to Madara-sama, Obito was one of the strongest beings in their world. Itachi shouldn't be having such an easy time fighting him. Nineheart then recalled Itachi mentioning earlier that he would have had a harder time fighting Obito outside of this dimension. If I let him out, it will spell trouble for our plan, keeping him trapped in here is the best option. But it disturbs me how that didn't worry him, the potential of being trapped in here. Is this some kind of psychological warfare? Is he trying to make me insecure about keeping him trapped here so I would let him out? Or does he actually have a way of escaping? I would rather not sacrifice Obito. He is too valuable of a piece in my chessboard, but if he is only trying to trick me, and Obito is the only way for him to escape from here, then he wouldn't risk destroying Obito. Nineheart clicked his tongue in frustration. Damn you, and your mind games, Itachi Uchiha. One thing had been made obvious, Nineheart had not only underestimated Itachi's powers, but he had also underestimated how much of a frustrating opponent he would be. There must be something he could use against Itachi to break him. Then it clicked in Nineheart, and he snickered with a menacing smirk. Let me just take over for a moment, Obito. Obito's body froze, his consciousness fading as Nineheart took over his mind. Itachi Uchiha, I realize I have yet to introduce myself. Itachi halted, raising his brow. He wasn't too eager to hear an introduction, he had already seen Nineheart and found his location. But something about his tone told Itachi otherwise, maybe he had something of worth to say. Plus, if Itachi could keep Nineheart talking, the Spriggan might slip up and reveal vital information about his magic. My name is Nineheart, I am a member of the Spriggan 12, as I am sure you know. And as you can see, I have the ability to revive the dead. Well, in a sense, it was actually thanks to a mutual acquaintance of ours that I was able to master this technique. Madara, Itachi had guessed it somewhat. It was either Madara or Zirf that must have helped this Nineheart gain the ability to revive the dead even from Itachi's old world. Correct, he helped me perfect my Historia magic, by teaching me about this Edo Tensei. So, I redubbed my spell Historia Tensei. With this, I am able to revive anyone from the memories and histories of my opponents. And Obito isn't the only one I have revived. Nineheart snickered. Itachi flinched, as he remembered from the memories of his now destroyed crow clone in the Fairy Tail Guild. That 3 enemies were spotted on the battlefield with Sharingan. So, it was him, huh? Don't tell me. If what Itachi was thinking was true, then he was going to be furious. He could feel rage bubbling up within him at the mere thought. Fugaku Uchiha, Makoto Uchiha and Izumi Uchiha. Prime specimens, if I must say. Nowhere near as powerful as Obito, of course. But they get the job done. Right now, they are terrorizing the northern continent of Ishgar. Nineheart revealed, and Itachi balled his hands into fists. How does it feel to be trapped in here while your family and former lover are killing your new family? Trapped? I hardly think so. Itachi's senses reacted, as a new player entered the field of the battle. A vortex opened up next to him, and out came Mistogen with Obito's Sharingan rotating. His eye was a bit bloodshot, and he was panting. Without an Uchiha body, Mistogen would have difficulty using the Mangekyu over longer periods of time. Took you long enough, Itachi smiled. Sorry, took time to pinpoint where your chakra went, the former commander was kind enough to help me. Mistogen shook off his slight fatigue, and stood up facing Obito. Didn't I leave you with Invul and his majesty? No, wait, you look different. And that eye, Nineheart flinched as he saw Mistogen's eye, it was Obito's Mangekyu Sharingan. It finally became obvious to Nineheart why Itachi wasn't concerned with being trapped here. Why didn't you destroy Obito right away? Nineheart hissed. I wanted to learn more about your magic, which I now have. Plus now that I know your location, I can send a strike team to take you down. Itachi had played Nineheart for a fool from the start, and the realization of that infuriated Nineheart to no end. Itachi Uchiha, Nineheart roared and had Obito charge at them. Mistogen, however, quickly acted and used Kamui to teleport them out of the Kamui dimension. And Obito just leapt at empty air, hearing Nineheart cursing in his head. Hey, as always a pain in the ass. Obito smirked at witnessing how Itachi played both him and Nineheart. Nineheart quickly had Obito follow, and teleport out of the Kamui dimension to follow them. On the outside, Itachi and Mistogen arrived on a battlefield covered in ice, and with beams of light raining down from the sky. As Jalal was in full swing fighting against Inbal and Zirf. You made it back. Jalal smiled in relief, a little surprised to see his Edalus counterpart also here. My, seems he escaped Nineheart's little trap. Zirf smiled, with genuine joy. He was pleased to see his creation. However, another vortex appeared above them, and out came Obito wielding a chakra rod. Aiming straight for Itachi, Obito took a swing and Itachi dodged. Mistogen and Jalal both reacted and tried to attack Obito. Mistogen sending a blast from his staff, and Jalal sending a beam of light from the sky. Yet, to their surprise, the attacks merely phased through Obito. Mistogen, Jalal and Itachi made some distance by taking a leap back. Mistogen, I will need you to back me up. Only with your eye can we defeat him. Itachi knew that the Kamui was difficult to deal with, even for him. Luckily Mistogen was here to provide aid. How do we go on about it? Mistogen asked, and in response Itachi used his Sharingan to cast Mistogen under a genjutsu, where he revealed the plan in detail. Got it, let's take him down and go after the caster. A hammer of ice came crashing down on them, which the three of them narrowly avoided with a quick leap backwards. Inbal looked with a bored expression. Don't assume we'll stand by and do nothing. Zirf smiled, seems he would have another intense battle today. Natsu really rattled my bones earlier, I wonder how you will fare against me. Zirf suddenly however, surprised everyone by shedding a single tear. This feeling, a sensation of pure magic power overcame all of them, an infinite source of power cloaked the entire land. This feeling, it can't be, Itachi looked a little spooked. Inbal trembled slightly at sensing this magic power. What was this power? Zirf however, smiled with joy, never did he think he would feel this energy again. My love. A little earlier in the Fairy Tale Guildhall, way down in the basement level, Kana aimlessly walked around, taking in the hidden basement floor of her guild. While walking up front was the spirit projection of Mavis Vermilion. I never would have guessed a place like this was under the guild. Come to think of it, this is your first time seeing it. Mavis gestured towards the giant lacrima crystal containing her real body. That is my body, and the eternal magic, fairy heart. And that's what Zeref's after. Kana analyzed the crystal, and then looked to Mavis as she had yet to reveal her plan. And, what am I supposed to do here? My calculations show that I am needed on the battlefield. Therefore I need you to use fairy glitter to release my body. You will need to destroy this spiritual body for it to work without causing me any harm. In response to my magic power vanishing, the crystal will break from within from my magic power trying to restore this projection body. Kana flinched, looking visibly uncomfortable in the situation. First, I can't attack you, Kana uttered, and the glare she received from Mavis quickly silenced her. This is our best option. With Itachi missing from the battlefield, and with all these reanimated warriors popping up, we require more power. Besides, I am a mere projection of my own will, not an actual human being. You won't hurt me, so don't worry. Please Kana, trust me. Mavis looked strongly determined, and Kana thus slowly raised her dominant arm. The symbol of the fairy glitter tattoo appearing on her forearm. As you wish. First, Kana hesitantly complied and closed her eyes as the spell began its process with a ring of energy forming around Mavis. Fairy glitter. The battle with Makarov, Laxus and Ward against Yuri and Hades had reached a stalemate. Both sides were somehow even. Yuri bouncing around the room gaining more power in his attacks had already knocked Makarov and Ward around the room a couple of times. Laxus was the only one able to keep up with his great-grandfather in terms of speed. But the power gap kept growing, as Yuri grew stronger with his magical ability Quick Charge. At the start, Laxus had the upper hand against Yuri in terms of power. But the Lightning Dragon Slayer had quickly noticed Yuri growing stronger and faster. Yuri attempted to strike Laxus with a lightning bolt, but being a Dragon Slayer, Laxus looked up with his mouth wide open. The lightning bolt flew into Laxus' mouth, and he fed of its energy. Looks like you might be the only one able to take me down, Laxus, Yuri smirked with pride over his great-grandson. Oh, trust me Super Gramps. I haven't even started getting serious yet. Laxus charged at Yuri, seeing the trajectory of where Yuri was bouncing to predict his path. Laxus beat Yuri to the punch, and drop-kicked Yuri upside the head before he hit the wall. Yuri clashed to the floor, but quickly got up and went back on the move. Yuri brushed off Laxus' attack like it was nothing. Rushing at Laxus, running around him, Laxus was met with a tornado of fists clashing against his body. His muscles grew sore, his flesh and bone groaning for each strike. With his endless stamina, Yuri could tire Laxus out no problem. Things wasn't looking good. Warad was tossed around the room along with Makarov, Hades having caught their bodies in magical chains and tossing them around the room. Makarov had a cut on his forehead with blood gushing over his right eye. And Warad had suffered heavy bruises as Hades additionally blasted him with magic bullets. Yuri, Prekt, Warad uttered and raised his hand, forming a giant tree out from beneath the floorboards around the two Historia Tensei warriors. The thick and dense trees engulfing the two Historia Tensei warriors. Yuri kept bouncing around even within the tree vines, gathering up so much energy lightning bolts were leaking out between the gaps. "It's no use, Warad. Just take Makarov and Laxus and run," Yuri shouted out of concern for his son and great-grandson, as the lightning he generated finally exploded and took the tree with it. Prekt raised his hand as magic circles formed around the trio. Pathetic. Amaterasu Formula 28. A powerful explosion of dark light blasted into Laxus, Makarov and Warad, who all groaned in pain and agony on the floor. "Prekt, what's wrong with you? They are our friends," Yuri shouted in anger at his former comrade, who didn't show any care about bringing pain to his former teammate. "They were my comrades, until I realized that the true path of magic was with Zerf in the darkness. The ties I had with you mean little to me now." Prekt, or rather Hades, declared and sent magic bullets shooting through Laxus' legs, as the lightning dragon slayer had showed resistance to his Amaterasu formula unlike the other two. Arg! Laxus fell onto his good knee while clutching onto his injured one. Laxus looked to his grandfather, who laid on the ground, screaming in agony. Laxus growled at Hades with rage and inhaled his breath as sparks of lightning flickered around his body, and a sphere of lightning gathered in his mouth. Lightning dragon. Roar! Yuri widened his eyes in awe at his great-grandson's power. The sheer blast was enough to engulf both Yuri and Hades. Makarov, seeing his grandson fighting, pushed himself up and joined in by turning into his giant form. Makarov balled his giant hands into fists, and cloaked them with a golden magical energy. "Even if you are the former master, and even if it is my own father, I refuse to let anyone harm our guild." Makarov swung his fists around. At such speed it appeared as if 10 fists swung into Yuri and Hades, preventing them from escaping, and to be engulfed in Laxus' breath attack. Hades quickly reacted, and raised his right hand with his middle finger and index finger sticking out, forming a dark magic circle. Laxus' breath attack detonated into a massive dome of destructive lightning, blasting Yuri and Hades with multiple lightning bolts. "Hey, as expected of my boys, they have grown so strong." Yuri spoke with pride at his son and great-grandson. "However, seems Prekt has grown stronger since last I saw him." The smoke cleared, revealing Yuri and Hades protected by some form of barrier. "Please, Makarov, I know I wasn't around most of your life, but listen to your father and just run. Please," Yuri pleaded as Hades was unharmed, but Yuri's right arm was gone, seeming to have been caught a bit in the blast before Hades protected them. Although the arm regenerated thanks to the power of the Historia Tensei magic. Makarov didn't have many memories of his father. Yuri died before Makarov even learned how to use magic. But he remembered what Prekt and Warad would say about his father, and he knew his father loved him dearly. "Dad, you should know better than anyone. We are fairy tale wizards. And we don't run away from a fight," Makarov declared with a smirk at his resurrected father. Makarov wasn't giving up, and hey, he never got the chance to rebel against Yuri in his teenage years. Might as well catch up on lost time. Yuri, despite wanting them to be safe, despite his warning, couldn't help but smile with pride over seeing his son, and what kind of man he grew up to become. "You are so damn stubborn," Yuri would have cried if he could, wondering what his dear wife would think of their boy. "Just like my old man." Makarov flashed his father a smile. "I taught you well, boy, just like I did with Ivan. Although, I wish you had paid closer attention to the lessons I gave you like he did." Hades blasted out a magic bullet from his fingertip towards Makarov. Makarov quickly countered with a blast of light from his right hand. The two attacks meeting in the center of the guild hall, blowing away any standing tables and chairs. Lessons. You dragged my son into the darkness with you, although, I suppose the fault lies with me. I never paid any attention to Ivan while he was growing up. I had no idea how to be a father to him, so I just kept going on jobs and left him at the guild. How much hatred he must have grown towards me, I have no idea. Makarov's shoulders sank, at the memory of his deceased son. He was unable to save his own son from the darkness, and nearly even thought that he lost Laxus to the darkness as well, during the Battle of Fairy Tale. Makarov, Yuri couldn't help but feel guilty. Had he not died on that stupid job, he might have been able to raise Makarov properly. And Makarov would have known how to raise Ivan, and lead him towards a better life. Makarov trembled, remembering the sad look of a boy who only wanted his father's love. And because of that mistake I lost my son to the darkness, and now he is dead. But despite all that, Master Precht, you are right in one thing though. You have taught me well, although you yourself have forgotten the most important lesson you ever taught me. About family. Those lessons are what embodies the guild to this day, and in honor of the old you, I will take down the current you. Makarov charged up a massive light between his hands, he was charging up Fairy Law. Hades sneered, and charged up his own version called Grimoire Law. Foolish boy, Hades uttered. If they unleash their attacks, all of Magnolia would be lost. Ward gasped in shock, he knew Precht would do it as his caster also compelled him. But Makarov, what was the play here? Nothing came of it however, as a massive explosion rocked the guild. And both Hades and Makarov lost concentration of their attacks to which they both backed down. The source of this explosion came from the basement, and at that moment, both Makarov and Hades widened their eyes in realization. What was that? Yuri tumbled over in his tracks from the vibration of the explosion. Is there something down there? Yuri wasn't aware of any lower levels within the guild hall. Just how much of an upgrade had the guild gotten since he died? Lumen History, Hades uttered looking down at the floor, his focus going beyond that and onto that massive source of magic power that even leaked from the floorboards. First Master, Makarov uttered in shock. How could this be? Who could have set her free? Meanwhile, down in the basement, Kana was knocked onto her butt from the explosion, coughing as dust gathered around her and went into her lungs. Kana's vision was blurry for a moment, there was just so much light around her. All this Ethernano was intense, it was so rich. Once her eyes had adjusted to the light a bit, Kana looked in awe as Mavis' body walked out from the broken remains of the crystal. The naked First Master, using magic to restore her clothing into what she usually wore as a spirit. Thank you, Kana, it's time we deal with our visitors, and Zirf. Mavis flashed a quick grateful smile at Kana, while Kana was still left in awe at sensing this amazing magic power. It was unlike anything she had ever seen and it left her speechless. Yet, all this power didn't feel frightening, rather warm and welcoming. Back upstairs, everyone looked shocked at what they were sensing, or rather who. Despite all this time apart, none of the old founders could forget this sensation, this magic power. It can't be, Ward uttered in disbelief, his wooden body trembling and tears building up in his eyes at this familiar warm sensation. There is no way, but, I feel it. Yuri smiled, laughed even with joy at feeling this warm familiar sensation that had Ward nearly in tears. So, you managed to resurrect her. Hades narrowed his gaze as echoes of footsteps came from the underground passageway. And later from behind the door leading to the guild library. You have doomed us all, boy. Hades shot a glare at Makarov, humming in disapproval. The door flung open, and with it a rich amount of Ethernano exploded out into the guild like an intense wind. And two figures walked out, and the three former founders were left in silence at the sight of their fellow founding member and master. Mavis and Kana stepped up next to Makarov and Laxus. Mavis giving a look of pity at the sight of her old friends Precht and Yuri. Mavis, Ward uttered with sheer joy. Tears of joy uncontrollably running down his face at seeing his old friend. Sorry Makarov, but dealing with Precht is my responsibility. Mavis declared as she stepped forward. Her tiny petite form standing before Makarov, Laxus, Kana and Ward, yet she felt so big and strong with all this magic power. Mavis looked angered, and fearless as she was standing face to face with the reanimated Precht and Yuri. You are alive, Yuri uttered also with joy like Ward, although this brought up a troubling question in his mind. Ward, Yuri, it's been a while. Mavis acknowledged Yuri with a smile, and then looked to Ward who still laid on the floor looking speechless. Mavis giggled. Geez, Ward, what happened to you? You look like an old man, or more like an old tree. Mavis beamed with her warm friendly smile at her oldest living friend. Ward trembled, his heart warming. Seeing that smile again brought more tears to Ward's eyes. Not everyone stays young forever, Mavis, Ward cried as Mavis gently touched his face while smiling, bringing a sensation of calmness over Ward. A strong light engulfed Ward, and all his injuries got healed in a matter of seconds. How are you alive though? Mavis, Precht said that you, as the realization dawned on him, Yuri glared at Precht. This time Yuri was furious. If Mavis was alive, how dared Precht keep it a secret? They were all supposed to be comrades, they had a right to know. It was the knowledge of Mavis's death that led to Yuri going on riskier jobs, until he worked himself into the grave facing the impossible 100-year quest. Yuri, Mavis uttered with a feeling of guilt in her voice. Seeing the one who found her on Tenro Island all those years ago, the one who saved her from a life of being alone, only brought up painful memories. Memories of Rita, Yuri's wife, and Rita's death due to Mavis's curse of contradiction. The guilt in her voice was obvious to all in the room. What's wrong, Mavis? Yuri looked worried. Seeing Mavis like this made him want to walk up and hug her and comfort her. Although, he suddenly found himself sprinting, then cloaked himself in lightning. The caster of this spell was controlling his body to attack Mavis. Fairy heart is mine, Nineheart declared with glee in Yuri's head. Yuri's eyes widened in horror. Look out, Yuri shouted a warning, yet Mavis did not flinch. Yuri charged like a bolt of lightning towards Mavis, although was intercepted by Laxus, whose shoulder charged into his great-grandfather. Laxus powered through his burning muscles, and with a heavy lightning punch knocked Yuri away. Thank you for stopping me, Laxus. Yuri still found it strange to look at his great-grandson's face. There was a clear resemblance. But it also just reminded him of how much time has passed since his death. Seeing his son look like an old dwarf only made it weirder. It was all like a crazy dream, but Yuri knew better. This was no dream. No problem, Super Gramps. Laxus balled his hands into fists and clashed with Yuri once more. The two flying like bolts of lightning around the Guildhall, with only echoes of their clashes ringing through the room as everyone was left in silence. As Mavis and Hades merely stared at each other. The silence was finally broken, as Hades decided to speak. The answer to your question from earlier is quite simple, Yuri. I kept it a secret because Mavis was cursed by Anksharam, just like the legendary black wizard Zirf. The curse of contradiction, Hades revealed, which brought a look of confusion to both Ward and Yuri's faces. Yuri would have been knocked out by Laxus due to this sudden shocking revelation, had it not been for someone controlling his movements. She seems to have control over it now, though she hasn't released any death energy so far. Perhaps all that everlasting magic cancelled it out. Curious. Hades stroked his beard, looking with great fascination at Mavis. What are you trying to say? Yuri questioned whilst he ducked away from Laxus' spin kick. She is immortal just like Zirf, and, like Zirf, she kills people around her the more she cherishes life. In fact, she is the one who caused your wife Rita's death when the boy was born. Which is why she looks so guilty now. Hades revealed, to which Yuri's face froze with a look of disbelief, same with Ward. Neither willing to believe their former friend's words. And no way, there is no way that is true, Yuri uttered in disbelief, his voice sounding broken. Mavis would never kill anyone, especially a comrade like Rita. Mavis, he is lying, right? Yuri and Laxus clashed in the center of the guild, both pushing their dominant arms up against each other. And violent streams of lightning crackling around them. Yet Yuri's gaze was only focused on Mavis. Mavis's heart broke seeing that pleading look on Yuri's face. She swallowed the lump in her throat and uttered 4 simple words. I'm so sorry, Yuri. Mavis having just confirmed Hades' statement. To which she looked away in shame, averting Yuri and Ward's gazes. The curse of Anksharam, the more you treasure life, the more death energy you release. The less you treasure life, then you don't release any death energy. She got it from using fairy law incorrectly when she saved you from the Tenro Jade. And when the boy was born, she truly started treasuring life. Which caused Rita's death the moment they touched hands. Hades explained, not seeming remorseful for what sort of pain this must bring his former companions. Yuri balled his hands into fists, clenching them so hard that if he had any blood it would drip from his fists. Although, now he understood why Mavis disappeared for so long. And one more thing, that hurt him more than anything, became obvious. So basically, it's my fault That Rita died and that Mavis, Yuri gritted his teeth, and looked like he was about to cry if he had any tears at all. Images of the battle over the Tenro orb flashing in his mind, him turning into a dragon, and Mavis using law incorrectly to save his miserable lousy life. I'm the one who is sorry, Mavis. Please, don't blame yourself. Yuri looked in shame, his actions having been what lead to his own wife's death, and what lead to his best friend getting cursed. All because of his stupid greed. Yuri, Mavis didn't know what to say as she was filled with sadness from seeing Yuri like this. Mavis, Yuri's body froze stiff, his eyes turned pale white. Without warning or hesitation, he charged towards Laxus, slamming a lightning-covered fist into his great-grandson's face. Laxus was sent flying into a table, breaking it in half upon impact. Yuri leapt into the air, and landed into Laxus with his knees slamming into his stomach. Laxus had the wind knocked out of him, it was getting harder to breathe. Yuri, Mavis called out, and as if he reacted to her voice, Yuri blasted a bolt of lightning towards Mavis. Makarov quickly acted, and grew in gigantic size, and stood in a defensive stance over Mavis, taking the hit himself. The blast knocking Makarov off his feet. Mavis grabbed onto Makarov's body that shrunk back to normal size. Seems the caster has taken completely control over Yuri's body. He cannot even speak anymore. Hades turned his attention towards Mavis. Whether it was the will of the caster, or Hades' own. He charged a magic bullet directed at Mavis. Farewell, Mavis, I truly treasured our time together. Despite that slight hint of genuine care in his tone, Hades without hesitation shot the magic bullet at Mavis. Mavis first gently put Makarov down, and turned to face the incoming bullet of magical energy. Mavis with a mere flinch of her right pinky finger. Before the magic bullet could even reach her, it hit a magic circle and bounced right off to the side. What? Hades looked visibly surprised that Mavis was able to create a defensive magic circle, faster than the speed of his magic bullets. Precht, Mavis without even casting a glance, swung her right arm to the side. A bright light flashed from her, and out of nowhere came this massive wave of magic power. The wave blasted into Hades, sending him crashing into a pillar of the guildhall. A pillar designed with magic seals so it won't break during a guild brawl, broke in half. Although I may once have viewed you as a father figure, and even as a brother, I will not let you harm our guild. Mavis declared, sending a piercing ice-cold glare at her old friend. She knocked Master Precht back just like that. Makarov widened his eyes in disbelief. That someone as powerful as Precht, who is considered on the level of the 4 gods of Ishtar of the Wizard Saints, was knocked back so easily. You finally decide to show your fighting skills. You who didn't even cast a single attack spell during the last war. Hades cracked a smile, dark magic power oozing out from his very being. How amusing. I hate fighting, but this time, I'm going to have to make an exception. The enemy is too powerful for our fighters to defeat, and you are my responsibility. Mavis didn't flinch before Hades' dark magic power. It didn't even face her. At the same time, Zirf looked in joy at sensing this explosion of magic power. While Invil looked spooked, Itachi, Jalal and Mistogan were in awe. And Obito had no idea what was even going on, but he too could sense this immense power. It seems Mavis has been resurrected, so, this is what Fairy Heart feels like. Magnificent. The Black Wizard Zirf smiled at the return of his beloved. Her magic power is astonishing as always. She has gotten even stronger. With Fairy Heart, she is even stronger than August. She truly is, the mightiest female wizard alive, Zirf declared, taking in the sensation of his beloved's magic power. Back with Mavis and the others. First, Kana uttered with a look of disbelief at the petite first guild master's power. She wasn't even taller than Wendy, yet she displayed a godlike amount of magic power. You have gotten stronger since the last time I saw you in combat. Hades picked himself back up while smirking. Holding his right hand out, moving it, creating pentagram seals with the magic emitting from his fingertips. Magic circles of darkness surrounded the petite little Mavis. Her expression wary and dark, as her body was engulfed with the darkness. Amaterasu Formula. 100. Hades chanted, as the magic circles of darkness gathered around Mavis's body, created a powerful purple dark light. The light surrounding her body completely to the point she wasn't visible. First Master. Laxus shouted, about to leave his battle with Yuri to go into action, but Yuri wouldn't let him escape. While Kana and Makarov let out frightened, concerned gasps. But Warid, he only smiled, knowing what was coming. You should have known, it wouldn't be that easy, Precht. Ward uttered under his breath. A beam of golden light shined through the Amaterasu formula. Hades looked in fright, as his Amaterasu formula was vanquished in an instant with a blast of light exploding around Mavis, who stood there, unharmed. Maviz's piercing glare focused on Hades. Hades was knocked back from the blast along with Yuri, all from this pure pressure of magic power. What spell did she use? Hades questioned in disbelief, not even having sensed Mavis casting a spell. No, she pushed back the Amaterasu formula with mere pressure. I'm sorry, Precht, sorry that I wasn't able to save you from the darkness and be there to support you. Mavis spoke, shedding a single tear, and Hades grew all the more angrier. It's my fault you became like this. Silence. Hades roared with rage, his hair rising up as he ripped away his eye patch. Demon's Eye, Nemesis. Hades created several demonic-like creatures from the debris around them. As his devil's eye glowed in a brilliant red light, the creatures circled around him, flashing their fangs at the petite Mavis. Perish in despair. This is the true nature of magic. Mavis raised her right hand as a glow of light emitted from her fingertip. She pointed towards Hades and his demonic armada of monsters. And then Mavis unleashed a massive blast of light. The light vanquished the demonic creatures in an instant and knocked Hades further back. Impossible. She negated my nemesis spell like it was nothing. Hades looked in disbelief that his mightiest spell was reduced to nothing before Maviz's might. What is this magic power? Is this the power of Fairy Heart? Her magic is that of a goddess. Hades widened his eyes seeing Maviz's body surrounded with a golden powerful white light. The way the light shined around her, and the way her clothing and hair blew in the wind, made her look like a goddess. Mavis was looking at him with a look of pity. That look left Hades speechless, his devil's eye being destroyed from the light of Maviz's spell alone. Forgive me, Precht, I hope you can find peace in the afterlife. Mavis shed a tear as a familiar tattoo appeared on her right arm. That mark, it can't be. Kana gasped. Laxus and Makarov looked in awe. So, caught up in the moment they couldn't even move a muscle. The white light emitting from Mavis exploded from her back, in what appeared to be wings. She looked like a genuine fairy. A fairy goddess. Grand fairy spell. Fairy glitter. Mavis chanted, and thus a ring of light surrounded Hades' body making escape impossible. The ring exploded into a towering pillar of light, blasting up sky high. Kana, Laxus and Makarov all looked in agape. Maviz's fairy glitter made Kana's look like nothing in comparison. The light of Maviz's fairy glitter shined through the country as a beacon of light, its pillar of destructive light reached beyond the skies and heavens. One could even see the light shine off from Earthland's surface in space. Hades couldn't move, his Historia Tensei body was being torn apart bit by bit. His reanimated body withering away into nothingness before Mavis' destructive power. He could only look at Mavis' body of glowing light, looking at him with a look of deep sorrow and with a look of pity. Upon seeing this Hades, or rather Precht's facial expression softened. No, I'm the one who is sorry, if I only were stronger back then, I could have saved Yuri, and you wouldn't have been cursed, then perhaps, I could have walked the path of light with you all. Precht thought as he looked up, seeing a photograph of the creation of the first guildhall hanging up on the counter of the bar. The photo caused Precht to remember his first adventure with Mavis, Yuri and Ward. This memory caused him to smile. It seems, I was wrong, the true nature of magic, is neither light nor dark, but what you make of it. Thank you, for helping me realize this, Mavis. Precht smiled at Mavis who shed tears at seeing Precht torn apart before her very eyes. Farewell, my friends, take care of our guild, Mavis, Yuri, Ward, and Makarov. Please, protect our legacy. Precht spoke before his entire Historia Tensei body was destroyed in the pillar of light. His soul finally put to rest. Elsewhere on a ship, Neinhard was sweating bullets, having felt Mavis and the power of Fairy Heart. Now that was unexpected. To think one of my mightiest Historia would fall so easily. Hey, oh well, who to send in next? Neinhard smirked as he plotted his counter move. Mavis lowered her hand as the explosion faded and the tattoo on her arm vanished as well. The dust from the explosion cleared and there was no trace left of Precht, and drops of tears fell from Maviz's eyes, the floorboard of the guild stained with her tears. Farewell, Second Master Precht. Makarov spoke with a tone of respect for his old friend and mentor. Makarov closed his eyes looking like he was giving a short prayer for the Second Master's soul. May you rest in peace. Laxus then finally knocked the reanimated Yuri to the floor, and Mavis took a quick look at her dearest friend. Yuri, without even moving a muscle, Mavis had created a magic circle underneath Yuri. The magic circle unleashing tentacles of light, entrapping Yuri and preventing him from moving a muscle. Mavis's feet levitated off from the floor, and she flew over to the struggling Yuri. She looked with a deep sadness, reaching her hand out. Mavis poked Yuri's forehead. A pulse of light surging through Yuri's body, to which Nineheart flinched onboard his ship. What was that? What the hell just happened? Nineheart had a cold nervous sweat. It was impossible. He couldn't control Yuri Drayar. That makes two. Yuri, like Hades, had been defeated. Two of his most powerful reanimated warriors, defeated. Yuri's eyes returned to normal, and he looked with confusion as Mavis floated before his eyes. Smiling at him, yet her eyes looked sad. Mavis. What happened? Yuri's body suddenly began to glow, his reanimated body withering away. As if Mavis's divine magic-like power had erased the impure resurrection that had bound Yuri to the living realm. Yuri, it's not your fault. I made the decision to use law to save you. My condition, Rita's death, none of it is your fault. Mavis whimpered as tears ran down her eyes. Yuri hung his head in shame, taking in Mavis's words. Someone has to pay. Someone has to be at fault, and that is me. Mavis, I appreciate what you are trying to say, but it is my fault. Yuri would have shed a tear if he could, overcome with shame and guilt. Yet, all that felt like it was erased. As Mavis cupped her hands onto Yuri's chin, leaning her forehead against his. Sometimes bad things just happen. And it's no one's fault. That is just how the world is sometimes. Yuri, it's not your fault. Now, please, go to Rita. I'm sure she misses you. Mavis shone brilliantly, even more than Yuri's soul as his reanimated body had withered away. Mavis, Yuri's soul shed what could only be a tear, and he nodded. Makarov, Laxus, I can't wait to tell Rita about you. I'm sure she will be so proud. Yuri smirked at his son and great-grandson, his soul floating into the sky. Please, protect Mavis and our guild. And just like that, Yuri was gone. Warad, Makarov, Laxus and Kana gathered around Mavis. Looking aimlessly into the heavens, Mavis smiled. What now? Kana spoke up. Mavis's smile faded. Mavis instantly felt the power of Zirf in the southern isles of Ishgar. Now, we begin our counterattack. Zirf will not win this war. Her power shining like a beacon to their allies, and like an ill omen to their enemies. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.